Many times when we have gone through major attachment issues or major traumatic events, we end up feeling like we're prey. The underlying piece that I'm going for and that we long for is that safety and nurturance and knowing that we belong. So when contact is consistent and predictable over time, that creates connection. When that connection is consistent and predictable over time, that creates relationship. When relationship is consistent and predictable over time, that creates intimacy.
Recently, I had an opportunity to sit down with therapist and founder of the Gestalt Equine Institute of the Rockies, Duey Freeman, for a conversation about building connections, about authenticity, about relationships, and about horses. So look, if you're somebody who wants to live an authentic life, who wants to have real connections and real relationships, and you're going to want to listen to what Duey has to say. This man has been teaching this stuff for decades, and he is a force of nature in the therapy and Gestalt world. Get ready. It's time to enter the Wild Lab. Welcome back to the Wild Lab, everybody. I am with my guest. I have a wonderful, beautiful guest today, Duey Freeman, who is a co-founder of the Gestalt Institute of the Rockies. He's an elder in the men's work sphere, working with men like Trevor Boehm and Connor Beaton. He's a teacher of therapists and coaches, and he's just an all-around wonderful human. So we're gonna have a deep conversation today, Duey, about horses, about relationship, about men's work, about wildness. Welcome into the Wild Lab, Duey.
Thank you so very much. And let me add a little piece to the introduction. It's true. Was a co-founder of the Gestalt Institute of the Rockies. I'm no longer with them. I retired from that program a number of years ago. I'm also the co-founder of the Gestalt Equine Institute of the Rockies. They're actually two different institutes. And I still am the founder and director of the Gestalt Equine Institute. I've had to, I was doing too much, so I've had to bring things in a little bit. So,
yeah, apologies. I meant to say the Equine Institute of Research.
No worries.
Yeah.
Well, there are two institutes, so yeah, just so I'm sensitive about giving people credit for what they do and being accurate. So I just want to be accurate about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because of that, right? I mean, that's a big reason why I want to have you on, is you do a lot of work with horses, right? You do a lot of work with horses and relationship. And so I want to start there. I want to start with the horses, and I want to talk a little bit about what they've meant in your life, right? Because I know I've talked about this on this podcast and in my book and in a lot of other places. Horses have taught me a lot of things. So I'm curious, from your perspective, as a horseman, as co-founder of the Gestalt Equine Institute of the Rockies, what have horses taught you about your own life?
Well, let's see. Everything? Can I just say that?
Yeah.
I could start there really easily. I would begin with the biggest piece with horses is their level of integrity and their level of clarity and relationship is probably the most profound thing that I have brought from my experience with horses. Many people, if you read books or if you learn about horses, somewhere along the line, you'll find out that you'll probably hear words and phrases like horses never lie and things like that. And that's true. One of we're sort of going to jump into some brain stuff here.
Yeah,
Quickly.
Let's do it.
Our brains and horses' brains are not exactly identical, but very, very close. Horses' brains are about the same size as ours, just slightly smaller. The biggest difference is their prefrontal lobe is about the size of a walnut, and ours is about the size of our fist. One of the things that our prefrontal lobe does, among many other things, is allow us to make up fiction.
Mm.
We can make up and talk about things that aren't there.
Right.
When we're able to make up fiction, sometimes that fiction is wonderful and imaginary and sweet, and we make up stories like Lord of the Rings. But we also can make up things that just are not true, and that's something that horses literally don't have the capacity to do.
Yeah.
So every interaction we have with the horse is authentic, and every interaction that they have with us, they demand authenticity from us. And what's most interesting about that is they will know and do know when we're not being authentic.
100%.
One of the things that often happens with people is, especially people that are new to horses, when I'm working with them, they'll go, I'm afraid, but horses scare me, or they're big, or they're this or that. And they've always, most of the time, people have been told that if you're afraid, don't show it. And, or if you're angry, don't show it. Or if you're anxious, don't show it. And horses will feel that incongruency. But we've learned to do that with each other. Like if we're afraid of another person, we'll pretend like we're not, or if we're intimidated by another person, we'll pretend like we're not. With horses, if you walk up and you literally can just tell them, and sometimes even have this spoken out loud, just say, I'm so afraid of you. I'm afraid you're going to kill me, or I'm afraid you're going to hurt me. What that does immediately is horses feel that congruency. That's probably, I mean, there's a lot to unpack around working with horses, but that's one of the biggest things, is a level of integrity and congruency.
Right. So integrity and congruency and authenticity and clarity, you said in there, right, as well, right? And so how you learn that in the round pen, you learn it in the arena, you learn it, when you're on the horse, and then you can translate that into your relationships. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest pieces. It's literally every major thing that we know about relationships that help relationships work, we can learn with horses.
Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Well, as a therapist, some of the things over the years that keep relationships from working that I've seen are people being passive aggressive, or people not being 100% congruent, or people not being clear, or people not being willing to engage, or people not being not allowing themselves to have an emotional process that actually creates connection and contact and connection and relationship. When we're with other people and we're not clear, concise, and direct, people sort of put up with it. Or when we're not clean, or we're passive aggressive, people probably many times won't say anything. When we're afraid, oftentimes we can find a way to hide it. With horses, none of that stuff flies. None of that stuff works. All of that, like even we had a group up here this last weekend, and one of the women in the group was actually afraid of the horses. And it's like, if I go up, I'm going to be kicked. I'm totally afraid. And as she is saying that, and as she got integrous about that, one of my main horses, his name is Dylan. And Dylan is sort of famous for those people who know me and know us, because he has such high standards. But literally as soon as she said that, he settled, calmed down, and walked up and stood next to her. So it's that kind of stuff that that when we're talking about how to be in relationships
Mm-hmm.
that horses actually can guide us and act as a sort of a feedback loop for us. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I've seen it in my own life personally. I've seen it with other people as well. You know, it's with horses, the way that they essentially, somebody told me this years ago, like whatever you bring with you in the ring is going to be there, right? Whatever you bring into the round pen
100%.
is going to be there. So if you bring anger, it's going to be there. You bring fear, it's going to be there. Whatever emotion you bring in, and horses end up being a mirror for that. Has been my relationship, or has been my experience a lot, right? But in that answer, you said two words that I really love to hear you unpack: contact and connection. Right? You said horses help us, teach us how to be in contact and connection and relationship.
Okay.
Can you unpack that a little bit? What do you mean by
Sure,
contact
sure.
and connection?
Yeah, I'm totally willing to do that. So one of the things, and this is just a little bit of an aside, when I've taught at universities for well over 30 years, and one of the jokes that most of my students would say is, if you don't know the answer to the question that Dewey asked, just say contact and you'll get it right most of the time. So let me talk about contact. And before I jump into contact, that definition, what I want to do is give the context that contact is actually the building block of attachment. And it's a building block, and attachment, sort of the way I look at it is attachment is sort of the foundational process that we go through that actually helps us learn how to have relationships later in our life. That
Okay, this
early
is this
attachment.
is like attachment theory you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the building block of attachment is contact. And so let me define this the way that we define it, because different people define it differently. Contact is an attuned moment in time where our boundaries touch another. And the boundaries that I'm talking about are our emotional boundaries, our energetic boundaries, our physical boundaries, and our spiritual boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put that all together, I'll say it again,
Please.
is contact is a present attuned moment in time where our emotional, physical, energetic, and spiritual boundaries touch another.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and many times when I'm talking about this in the beginning I'll actually have people hold their hands maybe 3 or 4 feet apart, and if they bring their hands in slowly, you can begin to feel the energy between your hands, and there's sort of an energetic boundary here and an energetic boundary here. You can feel those boundaries touch. If we put our hands together, you can feel the boundaries of our skin touch. For contact to happen, and this is actually a very different perspective of boundaries than most people talk about out there in the world, is most people, when they say, well, you have to have a boundary.
Mm.
And when people speak about that, that's usually more along the line of you have to have a fence, or, some sort of, you can't come past this. From this perspective, a boundary is actually where we make contact.
Mm.
And a boundary is in Gestalt therapy, it's called a contact boundary.
Mm.
And so let me expand on that just a
Yeah,
little bit,
please.
because this is where the connection piece comes in. Again, contact is oftentimes a very short process. It's sometimes seconds long. And it can be like, if you're in a relationship with somebody, it can be a touch, or it can be a look, or it can be an energetic feeling, or we can even make contact with the clerk at the grocery store. And um, and underlying that contact is what I talk about the I-thou relationship, which comes from Martin Buber. And what that I-thou relationship is based on is that every other being has just as much of a right and that their essence is just as valuable as our essence.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the work that we do, in the work with horses, I talk about I, thou, we, which is not just getting that the other being has just as much of an essence and existential right to be there and a background that's just as deep as ours, but it's also a piece of when we're in full relationship, then we share that with each other. So that becomes the we.
Is it similar to a kinship? Can I use that word?
I think kinship could be a way to have that.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest part of it is almost in some ways to talk about what it's not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what isn't it?
What isn't it?
Yeah.
What it isn't is many times, and I want to do this and I want to come back to the concept of contact, is we get taught to objectify the other many times. And that objectification of the other is the core of racism. It's a core of sexism. It's a core of ageism. It's a core, you name it, you name the isms, and it's a core of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're really trying to do is live, and we can also objectify ourselves. Many people do that. So what we're really trying to do is interact with another in a way to where we're not objectifying them, nor are we objectifying ourselves, nor are we objectifying our experience of relationship. Does that make some sense?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can get back to the contact thing, but I also think horses in the natural world in general are a really great vehicle for doing that.
100%.
Breaking down the barriers of objectification, right? Like I'm often reminded, I don't know how much Derrida you've read, and I don't like bringing him up all that often, but I'm often reminded of this moment that he has in this book called The Animal That Therefore I Am, where he's standing naked in front of his cat.
Mm-hmm.
And the cat is staring back at him, right? And it's this moment where he recognizes exactly what you're talking about, the objectification, and that like all of these isms that arise out of objectification, which I think you're absolutely correct. But one thing that he would say is that, and I would tend to agree with, is that like that first objectification is that first distinction of othering, right? Between I am human and this is animal, and we are distinct and we are different. And then we objectify that thing, and that allows us to objectify all of these other things. So I really am interested in you going deeper into this I, thou, we. And what I'm hearing in it is that and correct me if I'm wrong, is that I use the word kinship. I think I'm really focusing on the we part of it, where it's like almost, I'm thinking of also almost like community, almost like a togetherness in it. Yeah.
And you can actually see that with horses, is if there's a large herd of horses, if a lead horse or a couple of the horses, say they're going through a large open space, if one horse turns, they're all moving almost as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here's what's really cool, or a piece that's really cool. Martin Buber is the person who sort of came up with the concept of I thou.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Buber came up with the concept of I thou in relationship to a horse when he was a 13 or 14-year-old boy. And he actually has a written piece about that. And so let me even dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, please.
And so the people can get maybe a little bit more of a sense, because our relational process with both humans, but also non-human life is in our society we have made up an artificial distinction between human and non-human.
Yeah, exactly.
And from this perspective, there is no distinction. And one of the times I've experienced this the most is I was actually feeding one morning. It was one of those spring mornings that it had been beautiful, but overnight it got cold, and we had maybe like an eighth or a quarter inch dusting of snow.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like pure cobalt blue sky.
Mm.
And I was out feeding, and out of the woods came a small herd of elk.
Mm.
And a mama elk or cow elk was walking by, and her little baby was right behind her, right beside her. And she stopped and was maybe 25 feet away from me. And she raised up her head and she looked and stared straight at me. And I had stopped, and the contact that was made between us was, I could palpably feel it in my body. And my imagination is that she was feeling the same thing. It was one of the most spiritual and beautiful moments I've ever had, where it's just like, oh, I get you and you get me. And so that contact literally led to a process where, instead of her having to be on guard and guarding her baby, she actually relaxed. She stood there long enough then her baby started nursing. And she just stood there and like let her head relax. And I didn't move. I stayed there, stayed where I was. And then after a few minutes, she and her baby walked on to join the rest of the herd.
Yeah.
That's
Can I ask something specific about that?
Yeah.
Because I actually had a very similar experience this past weekend when I was hunting with the cow elk. But did you do anything specific with your body, or was it to let her know that it was safe, or was this, or what happened?
That's a great question. I didn't do anything specific physically. Like, in other words, like sometimes when we're working with horses, if we want to release pressure, we can turn sideways, for instance.
Right.
But what I did not do that. What I did, though, was we often talk about a sphere of disturbance or a sphere of acceptance. And our sphere of disturbance can go way out here. Like, people walk through the woods and they're talking and they're listening to something on their, in their earphones. And like, our sphere of disturbance goes out 20 or 30 or 40 feet. And people do that and they go, oh, I never see any animal.
Right.
And, but what I did purposely was pull in that energetic sphere into just my body. So, and just to allow her to feel that energy. And so that energy was not putting any pressure on her. So what I was doing was releasing pressure. And another word for it is we can have a sphere of disturbance, or we can have a sphere of influence. And so another term for it would be something like creating an opening. So when I'm working with horses and people, a lot of times I'm working on creating an opening, an energetic opening that horses, people, elk, cats, dogs, partners can actually come into that space. And our job is that when we create that, our job is to create an opening and be available for contact when somebody walks into that space or steps in.
I hear you.
So if you and I, like, if we didn't know each other, and actually we did this a bit, talking offline.
Right.
It's like, oh, both of us created an opening for each other. So it was like, oh, okay, I can relate to this man now. And even though we're a minimum of maybe 1,500 miles apart, physically, it's like we can still feel that. We can still have that.
Sure.
And so, and that's a lot of what I do in therapy, and it's also a lot of what I do with horses because, and you can actually see it. Horses will tell you, like when you create it, they might be on perk alert, is what I call it, where their head's up and their ears are pointed forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, we can actually calm their nervous system down and settle our nervous system down, and um, and create that opening and create contact for that other being to step in, and and it's actually called co-regulation. We can throw that out there, but but what I call it is we're creating that we.
Oh, okay. I see. I see the loop there through co-regulation to the we. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And even this morning, like one of my horses had cracked a hoof, and my farrier came over, and we were doctoring up his hoof and shifting a little bit on how his shoe was fitting, and we have great neighbors, and our neighbors have actually 2 donkeys and three alpacas.
Mm-hmm.
And they had let their alpacas out, and their alpacas were running all over playing all over their patch. And my horse was on major alert and going, who, even though our horses see them every day, it was a bit of a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
And some people would give a tug on the rope or their halter or something like that. But instead, what I did was I did an energetic thing where I created an opening and let his energy come into me, and he went, okay, we're good. Because I wanted him to be calm while my farrier was underneath his front end.
Yeah, of course.
Adjusting his shoe.
Of course. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's so how does that, talking about creating openings, talking to making contact, how does that, and we're talking a lot about how that works with elk and with horses, how does that work with people in relationship?
Well, here's one of the coolest pieces. When we allow ourselves, and actually go back a couple of minutes, you talked about the animal body or something.
The animal that therefore I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And we have the same kind of energetic system that elk and horses do.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason that we don't respond sometimes as quickly as horses or elk do is because we've been told not to use that. We've been told, like, yeah, exactly. We've been told we all live up here instead of down here. And as soon as we can shift that and let ourselves go into that energetic system, and there's a lot of research, and if you want to talk about some of that, we can, but we do that exact same thing in every relationship that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it be a lover relationship, whether it be a really good friend relationship, whether it be, you spoke a little bit about community, like creating openings doesn't just happen between two beings. It can happen on a bigger basis.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a community. And if, I would guess, not that I know you well enough to know this for sure, but I would guess that there in your life, you've walked into certain rooms and they may look great, but you walk in and go, ooh, this is weird. I don't know if I want to stay here.
It happens. Yeah, it happens.
And then there might be another place that you walk into, and it may even be chaotic or messy, and you go, it's a good place for me to be.
Yeah, the opposite, for sure.
And so it isn't, we put so much emphasis on what things look like and what we think they should be versus what do we really allow ourselves to sense. And that's one of the other pieces is that horses will sense us.
Absolutely.
And I mean, earlier in our discussion, you talked about Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance and like one of the pieces with Ray Hunt is he was so good with horses because he could sense what was happening inside them. And he would, and one of his statements is he would allow the horse to sense what was happening inside him. That it was this mutual process. And like you and I can do that with each other. You and I could do that together with horses. You and I could do that together with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it, and that would have a ripple effect. There's sort of that kind of energy does ripple, just like, you throw a pebble in a pond and you see the ripples and the concentric circles. There are all kinds of concentric circles that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say, well, no, I don't know, but like, would you say that this is one of the inability to, that's not an inability. Well, let me ask you this first. What's stopping us from doing that in relationship?
Thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
Really. Because our relational process and our original relational process, which is attachment, there's no thought process as part of that. Our brains are involved in it, interestingly enough. I mean, that's what the new research is showing with Alan Shore and Ian McGilchrist. They've done the research where, we're connecting right brain to right brain. That's really what we're connecting. And there's actually, I think they're called fMRIs.
The brain scans? Yeah.
The what?
They're brain scans, right? fMRIs?
Yeah, they're brain scans, but I forget what the F stands for.
I don't know what it stands for either, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. Where literally mothers, and it can be fathers too, but mother's right brain connects with the baby's right brain. Interestingly enough, even in utero. So our brains are involved, but thought and judgment are not involved, which is interesting. Like thinking is when we think, thinking inhibits perception.
Yeah, and inhibits feeling as well, right?
100%.
Yeah. So then is thinking, and I don't know, I'm making a jump here, but is thinking one of the fundamental challenges in relationship between people?
Yes.
Okay. Because why? Because it stops trust, or it stops contact?
It stops contact.
Yeah.
So let me walk through it. There's a thing here that can be really helpful to people.
Okay. Yeah.
If we look at contact as being the sort of a fundamental building block, when between two people, if contact is predictable and consistent over time, that creates connection.
Contact is say that again, please.
Consistent and predictable.
Consistent and predictable. Okay.
So if as we'll do this podcast, and let's say in a month from now we connect with each other around something else. If I can predict, and if I know, this is going to work out. I know that when I connect up with Ned, that it's going to be consistent, predictable contact. So when contact is consistent, predictable over time, that creates connection. When that connection is consistent, predictable over time, that creates relationship.
Okay.
When relationship is consistent and predictable over time, that creates intimacy.
Okay. Say more on the intimacy part of that, if you don't mind. What you mean by that? Because I'm assuming you don't just mean like sexual intimacy. Like you mean so much more than that.
I mean so much more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, and in fact, what I oftentimes say, I'll talk about that continuum, and I'll say very specifically that I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. And what's interesting is there are many people that have sex that aren't intimate at all.
1,000%. Yes.
It's like, okay, your genitals did this and mine did that. Okay.
Right.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Right.
Nice unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Right. Yeah. Because there's no
Maybe.
contact there, right? And there's,
Yeah,
yeah,
because there's no contact
yeah.
and there's no opening created for our
Mm,
partners, and
mm.
there's no safety in that. There's no sense of belonging in that. And that's really the core of intimacy is my relationship with you safe? Do I know where I belong? And can I bring whomever I am into that, whoever I am in the moment, into that space and be held without judgment? And true intimacy, interestingly enough, is that being held without judgment. And that's a very hard thing to do.
True intimacy is being held without judgment. Wow. Okay. I have to let that simmer a little bit and wrap my head around it. Yeah. And that goes for all relationships, I'm assuming.
Virtually
Yeah,
every relationship
everything.
we have.
A relationship with ourselves, relationship with God, relationship with other people, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of why I talk about, I mean, you're really hitting on this. It's part of why I talk about physical contact, emotional contact, spiritual contact, and energetic contact. And it doesn't always have to be all four of those at the same time, although most of those happen at the same time. But it's like, can I have a spiritual intimacy with you, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that we're sitting around going, okay, well, you believe this and I believe the same thing. But what it means is that bigger place or that bigger piece that it's like, oh, I get that you're part of something bigger and I'm
Mm-hmm.
part of something bigger.
Mm-hmm. And there's
And
no judgment there, right?
and that we're in this together.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll come in through a particular lens and I'll come in through another lens. But it's like, either way, we're still part of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And many times we don't even know what that is.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. I think that's for a lot of people. A lot of the people that come to our academies and go out into the wilderness with us. And I mean, it used to be the same way for myself, I think, as well, is that those relationships, self relationship, I mean, they're all related, right? The self relationship, the God relationship, the spiritual relationship, they, at least, for myself, and like I said, for some of the other people that I've worked with, it's just not, they're not fully developed, right? Because for me, there was a lot of judgment there. There was not a lot of trust there. Um, and there was definitely very little contact, especially in the God and in the spiritual relationship one. You
Yeah,
know,
100%. And a lot of
yeah.
time it's a pretty easy thing to use spirituality to bypass contact.
Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Well, years ago, I actually have been writing about this.
Mm-hmm.
In my life, I've actually lost children in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's been a very difficult process. And it's actually a part of my history that is both incredibly difficult, but also has helped me to grow. Because I'd had that experience. At one point, I was on a panel discussion talking to a group of probably 100 parents who had lost children, either in childbirth or by accident or illness or that kind of a process. And and here, when I go through this, I want to share how spirituality comes into this
Yeah,
for me.
please.
There were four of us on the panel, and people in the audience, we had sort of presented our stories, and one of the men in the audience stood up and asked about something about his son being killed in a car accident. And one of the other panel members made a comment about something like things happen for a reason, which
Mm-hmm.
I think that panel member was trying to speak to something spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And this particular man was standing maybe 15-ish feet from me, and he just got rageful. And literally attacked this other panel member, not
Wow.
physically, but
Nothing but
like,
verbally.
you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Don't tell me this. And I mean, he raged,
Yeah. Yeah.
and which I very well might have too.
Mm-hmm.
And what was clear was he was not going to settle down.
Mm-hmm.
He was not going to just let it happen. So I actually went, I was sitting on the end, and I actually went and I stood in front of him, maybe, a couple feet away. And he said, he kept saying, there is no reason. There is no goddamn reason. I mean, he was very upset.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was say, you're right. There isn't. And he went on for, I don't know how long, 5 to 7 minutes. And all I said was, you're right. There is no reason. We don't know this reason. There's no way in God's name to know. And as he began settling, and when he got that I was getting him, when he really got that I was getting him, he settled, and then he literally jumped into my arms and just started sobbing.
Mm.
And to me, that's the spiritual connection. What happened between him and me wasn't me being spiritual, but it was what was happening between him and me.
Right. Right.
And all I did was create an opening for him. All I did was stay in contact with him and say, you're right. There is no fucking reason.
Right.
God wouldn't do this. We don't know the reason. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all I did was create contact for him.
Yeah.
And create an opening for him to step into without telling him he should be further along in his grieving process, or he should look to a higher power. But it was that what was happening between us is what created that spiritual place, or that what I would call spiritual contact.
Mm-hmm.
There was there was emotional, energetic, and physical contact in that too. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and I didn't know his name. I still don't know his name. I mean,
well, I regardless of you not knowing his name, to me, that sounds like a very, even using your definition, a very intimate moment and an intimate relationship.
Incredibly intimate.
Yeah.
It was as intimate as any two beings could get in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you didn't know his name. Right.
And it was a 20-ish, I don't know. I didn't keep track. I don't know how long, but it was a relatively short amount.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that brings something up when you're talking about is some of the things that we carry with us, right, into relationship. And like this man was going through, and you were, and a lot of trauma, right? So I'm wondering. I've heard you say other places, and I've heard a lot of other people say other places as well, and I tend to agree with it that trauma can make us feel like prey, right?
Right.
It can make us feel like prey. I'm wondering if you can unpack a little bit what that means, but then also, and also maybe the role that horses play in that and helping people heal from that, perhaps.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because this is a sort of what I'm going to share with you is some stuff that I've been messing with for over the last year, 18-ish months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a piece that Kimberly and I talk about. And because Kimberly is my partner / wife / confidant / make shit up partner.
Yeah.
And it's a piece that she has also helped bring in, is horses in a natural wild setting are prey animals. And for people who don't know what that is they're animals that get eaten by lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. They do not hunt anybody down. They do not, they're herbivores. So they become prey at times to other animals that are predators.
Mm-hmm.
Many times when we have gone through major attachment issues or major traumatic events, we end up feeling like we're prey. But let me unpack that and mess with that a little bit.
Yeah, please.
In the natural world, prey-predator is a natural process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are all kinds of studies, and with your background, you very likely know about these, where like even on the plains of Africa, if there's a pride of lions who have recently eaten, there's giraffes and antelope and zebras that just the lions are laying there sleeping, and all the quote prey animals are just wandering among them. They're not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, those prey animals, if there's not a predator, there's no prey.
Mm-hmm.
Which is when we're really working with horses from a relational place, and when we're helping people work with horses from a relational place, if we walk in and we're not predatorial, then they don't have to be prey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let me add another layer to this. If we take, and people will come in and they will feel like they're prey.
Mm-hmm.
So the other layer that I add onto this, and this has been what I've been kicking around, is there's a difference between a predator and a perpetrator.
Okay. Yeah.
So the predator-prey is a natural dynamic. If there's a perpetrator, there's a victim versus a prey animal.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's a non-natural dynamic.
Okay.
There's nothing natural about that.
Okay.
And one of the big distinctions is when there's a perpetrator, it's not for any reason other than to perpetrate. It's not, there's no natural process to it.
What do you mean by that? There's no natural process to it.
Well, if there's a predator, they say catch a deer, like a mountain lion will catch a deer, and when they're satisfied, they go, okay, I'm not going to go catch any other deer. Deer and elk could walk through. That's a natural process. When there's a perpetrator, it's purely, there's no satisfaction to the perpetration, meaning they haven't caught a deer and now they're not the perpetrator anymore. The perpetration is purely for the purpose of perpetrating and harming.
Okay. So like to continue so like it'd be like if to kill just for killing's sake, essentially.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got you. I'm with you.
To kill for killing's sake, to harm somebody just to harm them.
Right.
Maybe to get power or control over somebody or those kind of things.
Got you. Okay. I'm with you.
Is this making sense so far?
Yeah.
So a big piece of the work is actually whoever's on the other end of that perpetrator. The first step that I'm working on is helping them, instead of be a victim, is to move into being a prey.
Interesting.
And here's why.
Yeah, please.
Prey animals in the wild are the fastest, the smartest, the most resourceful, the most relational.
Definitely that, yeah.
And it's just like, even if we have 2 quarter horses, which are both around 1,100 pounds, and we have a little pony that's probably 500 pounds. It's like, if they get nervous, I don't want to stand in front of them. I mean, as good a relationship as I have with them, if someone's going to lose, it's going to be me.
For sure. Yeah.
Not because they're trying to hurt me, but because of their speed, their agility, their ability, their resourcefulness, all of those things. When we're a victim, we lose all of that. We lose those aspects of ourselves because our nervous system shuts down. Okay.
So can I interrupt you just for a second? Am I hearing you correctly? Would you say then that we lose like that animal part of ourselves then?
Yeah.
Retreat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if we can move into prey and be like a horse.
Okay.
Or like an elk or like a moose. I mean, I've been in the wilderness a lot, and I'm way less afraid of mountain lions than I am moose.
I mean, I can understand that. Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
on a horse, and I've been up in like wilderness areas where I come across bears. Bears cross right in front of me, or I see a mountain lion go across the ridge, and I go, okay, well, I need to be aware, but I'm not worried about them. But if I see a mama moose or I see a bull moose,
Hmm.
I'm really
Yeah. Yeah.
and um, so that whole piece of us being able to move into that place where we have those resources and we know that we can through relationship, we know we can through our own cunning and our own abilities take care of ourselves, and we can be around somebody that's not a predator, then we can move out of being prey. So part of the work is moving from being victim to prey to non-prey.
Interesting. And so, what non-prey? What do you move into then? What's the? Because it's not predator. What do you move into?
Being alive, being in
Yeah.
relationship,
Okay.
having intimate relationships.
Okay.
Like like I mean, it's the same. Like even and maybe someday you'll get to visit here. We walk up to the horses, all we have to do is stand there and they'll come up to us.
Hmm.
And they'll be curious, they'll be open, they'll be playful, they'll be all of those things, and so it's they'll be athletic, they'll be, um, someone lays their coat over the fence and they'll go up and pick the coat up and run around to get you to chase them, and it's we're we're not prey, we're not predator, we're not a victim, nor are we
I like that.
we just are.
I like that a lot because I mean, it speaks to my philosophy, my whole life philosophy of like embracing our own animalness, and I also like it because it gives the prey some agency, right? Because
100%.
what I'm hearing you say is that like if I'm prey, well, if I'm prey, I got community. Like I have other horses, I have other elk, or have other
Yeah.
whatever around, right? Am I right in that or no?
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
100%.
I have these things, and I also have my own wherewithal to escape, to run, to flee, to whatever. And that's I would imagine incredibly empowering, or can be incredibly empowering.
Well, it is incredibly empowering. And you and I could both go up to our horses and I mean, you know this because you know horses. I mean, do you know any man who's even close to being even tiny bit as strong as a horse?
Definitely not. No, no.
So it's like that strength is something we get strength in community. We get strength in finding our own herd,
Mm,
for instance.
yeah.
We get strength in being able to, um, and being able to go, I need and want your help for us to be safe. And because what's really the other piece that's interesting is a victim is isolated.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
that's actually part of whoever is the perpetrator is their part of their purpose is to isolate the victim so they can do whatever they
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
That's a really different thing than, I mean, and actually, I was just watching some video maybe 2 days ago of a, a baby horse that this was actually Kimberly and I years ago. It's not a very good video because it was a handheld camera and the horses were about 100 yards away.
Hmm.
It was a wild herd up at the Black Hills Wild
Mm.
Horse Sanctuary. Do you know
Hmm.
where that's at?
I
With
don't.
Dalton White.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't been there, but I know of it. Yeah, yeah.
It's an amazing place. And we were up there for 4 or 5 days, and we just went up the morning we were going to drive back, and there was a mare that actually we filmed giving birth.
Cool.
So this little uh, colt was born, and I mean, I don't know whether it's male or female, but Mama cleaned him or her up. And in about 40 or 45 minutes, we have video of this horse trying to stand up, and they did. And at first, Mama was keeping the other horses at bay. But then within about an hour, the other horses came around and actually built a protective wall around this little foal.
Yeah.
And within an hour and a half, all of them, including this foal, literally just as a herd walked over up over this knoll and down over, and then we lost sight of them. But within 2 hours, this little foal was a part of the herd.
Yeah.
And you can bet that if a predator came in, whether it might be a mountain lion, I mean, this is up in, I think is South Dakota, I think is where it's at, it's wild country up there. And so, whether it would be wolves that come in or a mountain lion or whatever, that little foal is right in the middle of this herd of 30 horses.
Yeah.
And so, when we can connect, if we go through something difficult, and I know that, part of our conversation was a lot of working with men and how to help men. It's like, just think of what would happen if we have somebody that's really hurting, a man who's just gone through all kinds of, you name it. If we had like 20 men going, okay, you're part of our herd, we're going this way.
Right. Yeah. And that brotherhood is huge, I think, with helping men, because
100%.
I think, because like you said, so many people, men, women, whatever gender, like can feel like a victim and don't feel a part of a herd, don't feel a part of a tribe, don't feel a part of a community. And so I do love that. That's brilliant work I think you're doing, moving from the victim to the prey. I want to be very respectful of your time. I am really curious, however, because we're talking about victims and we're talking about prey. I'm curious if you do work with the predator, because when we're men, women alike, there's the other side of it, right? Which is, yes, there's lots of victims and there's lots of prey, and then there's also the perpetrators, and there's also the predators. And so I think one of the things that I see, at least with some of the men that I've worked with, is a fear of their own predator within them. Does that make sense?
100%, yes.
Yeah. I wonder if you can talk just a little bit about that, and like how you might approach those men, those people.
When I work, and I actually make a distinction there between a perpetrator and a predator. Like I actually have begun going, let's help you be a predator instead of a perpetrator.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
And part of the reason for that is because perpetrators are never satisfied.
100%.
Predators are.
Yeah. Okay.
Perpetrators lack attachment. Predators have attachment.
Okay. Yeah.
So when we go here, think about this, and gets into some of my attachment theory stuff. Our longing, our needs as beings, and this is really, how would I want to put this? This is sort of bringing in a great big picture and bringing it in smaller, is we want food, which it gets expanded into nurturing. We want touch, which is expanded into contact. And we want movement, which is expanded into emotion, which is energy moving through our body. That's how I define emotion.
Okay.
When we're a perpetrator, we don't know how to get those. And we're always trying to get those.
Yeah.
When we're a predator, we begin to know how to get those. And so when we get the nurturing, the contact and the emotional stuff, we don't have to be a predator anymore. We're just like those lions that are in the Sahara that, or whatever. I don't know if that's the exact place it would be.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Is that once we get nurtured in whatever way we need to, because what they're after is nurturance and nutrition. That's what they're after. When they get that, they're good. So if we can move into that place of being a predator, then we can be satisfied. And we can be satisfied through relationship. We can be satisfied through contact and nurturing. We can be satisfied through a relational process with whomever we're with, whether it be a group of men or a woman, for instance, that we're in love with. Because there's an ability for satisfaction.
Got you. As opposed to the perpetrator who can't be satisfied. So then is the trick then to move a perpetrator through to relationship in order to
Yes.
get them to become a predator.
Yeah.
Right. And then,
and to be satisfied, because as soon as we're satisfied, we're no longer a predator. As soon as we're satisfied, we're no longer a prey. And the underlying piece that I'm going for and that we long for is that safety and nurturance and knowing that we belong. And when we can begin to get that, then we don't have to be any of those other dive into any of those aspects of ourselves.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces that you mentioned of that there are men who are afraid to allow themselves to really let move that stuff through.
Yeah.
The way that I do it and the way that has made sense to me is they have to move through that stuff in relationship with a group of men.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because part of what I say, like whether it's with Connor or whether it's with Traver, because we do initiations with, I work with both groups, is that we can actually hold what you bring. You know, whether it be the rage or the hurt or the loss or the confusion, the
fear.
Yeah, the fear.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things is the fear of being afraid.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
That we need to be able to hold, because being afraid is, again, a very natural process. Being afraid of being afraid is what isolates us.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's what a lot of men, myself formerly included, definitely suffered from that. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're right, because I think it's, at least what I've seen in my own work, it's like a lot about that. You said we can hold that rage, we can hold that fear, we can hold that whatever. A lot of it is just in the witnessing of, like, because we've been taught, a lot of us men have been taught that it's not okay to be fearful, it's not okay to be rageful, it's not okay to be insert whatever emotion that you want to insert. And a lot of it is just having a group of other men witness that and know that, okay, we're still here. We still accept you as a human being, as an animal, as a part of this tribe, herd, community, whatever. Right. And we hear you and we see you and we're here. Right.
Yeah. And there's a piece that I talk about, and what you're talking about is exactly what I'm saying. We're on the same page with this. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be gotten. We want to be cherished. And we want to be protected. When we get those things, we don't have to be prey. We don't have to be predator. We don't have to be perpetrator, and we don't have to be a victim.
We can be alive.
We can live our lives the way that we're designed, which is a relational process with other men, with community, and with women and with
Mm-hmm.
children.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful, Dewey. Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate that. Um, I want to, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. And so I just want to ask if there's any last words that you want to leave people with about relationship, about, because I mean, honestly, I could sit here and I could talk to you all day. I have like 10 more questions probably I could ask about, but I want to just give you the last word and see if there's anything that you want to leave the listeners with about relationship, yeah, that you think might be helpful to them.
Uh, Are you open for me talking about a couple of things?
Sure, man. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I actually set aside time so that so that we weren't rushed.
Okay, yeah, sure.
One, I want to talk, what we haven't touched on much is today is relationships between men and women. And one of the places where people get the most hung up is around sexual relationships between
Oh,
men.
totally. Yeah,
So, not that we're going to cover everything that there is in this in the next few minutes,
yeah.
but I want to talk about a concept here. And this whole piece that I've spoken about around learning how to create an opening for another person is a really big deal to me. When we are in relationship, and particularly sexual relationships with women, women create openings for us. They
Energetically and physically. Yeah.
energetically and physically, and we literally go inside their bodies. For women to feel really comfortable and safe with that, our job is to create a bigger opening for them to hold them inside that space so that when they're creating an opening for us, that they're safe. So there's a lot of work out there and a lot of talking about that men penetrate, which we do. I mean, it's part of what we do in life, in many areas, many arenas, so to speak. But when we're in a relationship where we're with a woman where we're penetrating, we have to, I believe that our job and our role is to create an opening so that inside that, a woman feels comfortable to allow us to enter into the opening that she creates for us.
I totally agree. I wonder if you could expand on like what you mean by creating an opening and how we can do that. Because I talk about this all the time, but I think you're absolutely right on. Yeah.
An opening, and I teach this with horses, is it, and the way that I do this or think about it is, and where I teach it, I'll oftentimes have like a horse in my arena with someone holding a lead rope, maybe a 12-foot lead rope. And the idea is to create an, and we work on this, is to literally, there's a process of softening inside, which some people would call grounding, and then opening up energetically in front of us. It's literally almost opening a door, an energetic door. And I have people practice that with horses because horses will feel that. When they do that, a horse will they'll just walk in up to the person. They don't have to. You don't have to pull on the lead rope. You don't have to ask them to come. They just go, oh, this is pretty cool. That's a good place for me to be.
Yeah.
And so it takes some practice. A lot of where I've learned it is I've practiced Aikido for a bunch of years. So um, I've also done some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I'm working on now with a good friend of mine.
Okay.
But both of those things, but particularly with Aikido, what we're creating is an opening where we actually blend with somebody and redirect. That's what Aikido is about. And so a big part of that is to blend with somebody. We actually have to help step into a space where they can come, or I mean, create a space where they can actually step into that space to blend with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can think about it that way, It's literally almost opening an energetic door for somebody to step into.
Yeah. And it's to me, to go back to your concept of contact, right? That's what that sounds like, in that it's not a boundary. It's a it's a it's a co-created space in a way, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. The way I always like to think of it when I think of boundaries, and I know it's super cliche, but I often think of a river. But the thing about rivers that a lot of people get wrong is that we think we have a bank and we have water, and like that's it. And it's like this static boundary between them. But what I think most people don't really understand is that there is water seeping into the bank, and the bank is also falling into the water at all times. Like there is this conversation between the river and the soil that's happening on an almost, instant basis, constantly. And
Some basis for sure.
yeah, and so like the bank does create the space. It does create somewhat of, it creates a space, but then the river, the river cuts through it, and there's always this feedback between the soil and between the water that is not just this static thing, but is, moving. It's kind of like what do you think of, like a fluid box or something, in a way,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
It's a very fluid process.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah. And so
Yeah.
for men to do that in relationship, I think can be very hard. I think it's especially if we're not open emotionally, especially if we have our own wounds, which so all of us do. Right? I think that can be a really difficult thing to ask of us.
Well, it is really difficult, and it's what my experience is, and I don't know that everyone can say this,
Mm-hmm.
but I think many people can say it or get close to it. Is when I'm working with a man or a man in a group or a men's group, I can confidently say that there's nothing that you can bring up that I can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest fears with for men, is that they'll bring stuff up that people can't handle.
Absolutely.
And I also know that I have backup. I know that I have Traver, or I have Michael Gay, or I have Connor Beaton, or I have numbers of other men that I really trust, that if it, that it's like, if I need that, I got that.
Sure. Because I would imagine there would be times when something might really hit a little close to home. I mean, I know it's the case for me, or maybe it's something, yeah, something might hit a little close to home, and feel like, oh, I don't know, maybe Trevor can handle this, or maybe Michael can handle this, or tag somebody else in.
Yeah. And the biggest thing for me is, even if it's close to home, I'm pretty
Mhm.
much at a place where if it brings up sadness or tears for me, I just keep working and I cry at the same time.
And that can be powerful, I think, as
Yeah,
well, though.
very powerful.
Yeah.
And there's some times where men have to push, like physically, they need to do that. And like in a month, I'm going to be 75. So,
Hmm.
if I have a 28-year-old man who's a bodybuilder, I'm probably not going to be able to handle that physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't mean that that can't be handled.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
So that's that piece around men creating openings for women I wanted to share. And then here's the last piece, because one of the pieces that is, and it's been a passion of mine for early in my life, I didn't know it was because I didn't know that much about it, is all of the attachment stuff.
Hmm.
And just to give a very, very brief background, when I was born, when my mother was carrying me in utero, she was diagnosed with tuberculosis.
Hmm.
That was in 1949.
Mm.
Then tuberculosis was essentially a death sentence.
Right. Yeah.
Thankfully, my mother made it through that. But I was separated from her for 18 months and lived with my grandparents and my father, and I have a sister that it's a year older than me. Later on, I ended up with two younger brothers too.
Mm-hmm.
But that put me on a path of really trying to deal with attachment issues, which again, I didn't know that. And as a kid and growing up and all of those things. But one of the pieces that I have studied a lot and taught a lot and have developed a lot is a whole attachment theory and how to work with attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot out there right now on people working with attachment. Virtually every attachment theory comes down to one process. And you can look this up yourself if you'd like, or anyone watching this, is we create attachment and trust by being able to go through a tough time in contact and relationship with another and coming out okay.
Yeah.
And when that becomes predictable and consistent, then we attach and we create trust.
Yeah.
And so, and the reason, like when you said, can we wrap up with something or what would I like to say, is a whole lot of what we're working with here is really simple stuff, and it's not easy.
Absolutely not.
It's really simple.
Yeah.
And sometimes we overthink stuff. And at the same time, when we can, I like to try to leave people with something that's simple, like in your relationship, start working with contact, work with being able to be in contact and relationship, go through a tough time and come out okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether that be with your best friend, whether that be with your neighbor, whether that be with a group of men that you're with, or whether that be with your partner, whomever that may be. That, or interestingly enough, and this is a really cool part, do you know who Tick Maynard is?
Maynard. The name sounds familiar, but I don't know. I couldn't.
He's right now probably what I would consider the top horseman in the world. There's a competition called the Road to the Horse, which is starting colts.
Oh, yeah. I never did that as a young horseman, but I always kind of wanted to do it. Yeah. Familiar. Yeah.
Well, it's a competition, interestingly enough, where the contestants have 3 days, but it's an hour and a half a day. So they have 4 to 4.5 hours total, cumulatively to start a colt. And Tick Maynard's won that the last 2 years. And I've had a chance, I got lucky enough to meet him and spend a day in a clinic with him and have dinner with him. But this concept that I'm talking about around going through a hard time and coming out okay is exactly, he uses different words, but that's what he's talking about.
Absolutely. That's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. We are wired to do that. We are wired, whether it be between you and me, or whether it be between us and nature in general, or us and other mammals. This is how we're wired. So my encouragement and invitation is to learn how to go through a hard time in contact and relationship with another being and come out okay.
So simple, but like you said, there's a lot of work there, a lot of depth.
It's a lot of depth because we've been taught to try to win.
Yes.
And the win is for you and I, since we're the ones on here talking, is for neither of us to win and for both of us to come out okay.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, that's like, and when I'm thinking of a horse in a round pen and starting a colt, and there is no win in that for me. Like I don't get what I want. When I get what I want, the horse gets what it wants as well. Right.
Exactly.
The horse feels safe.
Exactly.
I feel safe. We both get to whatever whatever mutual agreement we've gotten to that day, whether it's getting a saddle on them or just walking them one step the lead rope or having a meetup or whatever it is, like in that
Mhm.
moment, it's a co-created thing. And that's the same with people. It's the same with romantic relationships, platonic relationships in the relationship. I think the most important one there that I hear is also the relationship with yourself,
100%.
right?
And there are many, many people that can't go through a hard time with themselves and come out okay.
Absolutely.
Where they bring in so much self-judgment that it like they wouldn't treat anybody else that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dewey. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to get to sit down and talk with you and get to know you a little bit more. And like I talking to some of our mutual friends, if you ever find yourself on the east side, man, you're welcome at my fire anytime. So
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that.
absolutely.
All
Well,
right.
until next time, we'll see you later.
Till next time.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Lab. If today's conversation stirred something in you and you're ready to connect to your own inner wildness, then check us out online on Instagram at Step Into Your Wild, or go on over to www.stepintoyourwild.com to learn more about our coaching services and wilderness academies offered through Walker's School of the Wild. Look, this is real work for real people who want to live with more clarity, more purpose, and more strength, but you don't have to figure it out alone. Let's walk this road together. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay wild.